The following presentation was recorded live in Orlando, Florida, for the 17th Annual Convention of the International Association of Square Dance Callers in 1990.
In this particular slot, and this particular session is called Formation Management. First, before we get started, I want you to know that we're going to need a demo square as we go through our session. So we only have a few ladies, and we're going to count on you for coming up in here and helping out with our session. So if we can, you ladies can be looking for a partner or be thinking about somebody you're going to grab and bring up here, that would be helpful. All right? Yeah, Ed, go get your wife. That's right. While we're setting up this, I'd first like to introduce the panel. Once again, the name of this session is Formation Management. This is the 1990 CALLERLAB Convention, and for tape information, the members of our panel, first member would be Norm Wilcox. A little bit about Norm. Norm's from Georgetown, Ontario, Canada, and he started dancing in January of 1961 and started calling in January of 1962. He calls Mainstream Plus, A1 and A2, and he's a member of the PQS, Advanced, AQS, and Caller Training Committee. Also, very importantly, is his wife, Wendy. Wendy, would you stand up and take a bow, and everybody clap for Wendy, okay? Very good. Also, on our panel is a man from Pittsburgh. He's been calling for 25 years. He calls all the programs. He's a former member of the Board of Governors, travels around quite a bit from coast to coast. Also, used to be in charge of a note service. And from Pittsburgh, Mr. Ed Foote. Ed? Ed, is Marilyn here? Well, when Marilyn comes in, we'll give her a nice round of applause, okay? My name is Mike Seastrom. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I've been calling since 1963, and it's amazing. Where does all the time go? I'm not real sure. Anyway, basically, there's evaluation sheets I think that we'll all be filling out at the end of this session, and so we'll try to make those available to you. Before we start out with formation management, first of all, the theme of this convention is building the foundation. And I think those of us that attended the RPM session this morning got a good handle on last year's kind of a summary of what we've talked about last year. A lot of good ideas we rediscussed today, and I think more importantly, we need to focus on the fact that as we enter into this next century, it's going to be critical for us to really focus in ways to bring more people into dancing in our foundation type programs. I think one of the ways that we can provide enjoyment and variety in these foundation programs is for a lot of us to re-examine the way we call and the way we teach, and also the way we handle some of our programs at the entry level, be it the basic program, the community dance program, and to be able to master portions of that program to provide variety and enjoyment for people no matter where they dance. I think the push has been over the years that we can get a lot more calls and a lot more variety, and I think we're kind of starting to take a turnaround and realize that there's a tremendous amount that you can do with just the simple basics. If you look through the new program, the community dance program that's out at the CALLERLAB front desk there, I think you'll see that there's a terrific amount of information in that program, and many of you will be surprised at the variety that's just contained in that many calls. Basically, formation management is a way of providing variety to your programs. When you stop and analyze the different things you can do from a variety of formations or from a single formation, I think it not only helps to add more variety to your program, but I think it gives you a better feel for the floor. It increases your awareness of where dancers are going to be before you get them there. And so as an aside, not only does it provide variety to your program, but it also increases your ability to use helper words to your dancers to indicate facing direction and what have you before they get there, so that you can increase their chances of their making through the sets in a successful manner. So once again, square success is probably another benefit to being able to have a better perspective on formation management. I think the other thing is that it gives you, the caller, a better ability to normalize your set so that you can resolve your set. And this session is really not intended to cover anything about square resolution, more to be able to cover something about managing your floor before you should resolve. And I think, am I right in assuming this? We're not talking about square resolution today. In Bill Davis's next door, that's right, next door. In Bill Davis's Sight Callers textbook, Bill said those who use extemporaneous techniques as their primary calling style have come to realize the ability to resolve a square must share equal importance with the ability to move the dancers in a smooth, comfortable, and interesting fashion for the majority of the tip. The objective is not only square resolution, but dancer enjoyment. So that formation management involves a good portion of what we do, not only just resolving our sets. Basically, before we proceed on here, I would like to tell a little bit of story. It involves a communication. I think most of us enjoy when the weather's nice and we're able to have people over our house for barbecues and that kind of thing in the afternoon. And one afternoon, not too long ago, I happened to have a local caller, a friend of mine from the Los Angeles area, and his family over to my house for a barbecue. And as he came through the front door with his wife and his small child, bounding in with them came this enormous dog, and I was quite amazed at how big this animal was. But as they came through the door, I greeted the family and turned around, of course, to sit down. We were right in the middle of watching a football game, and here's this dog sitting in my chair watching the football game. And I thought to myself, geez, I can't believe someone would come to your house and bring this dog, and this dog just make yourself at home. Well, anyway, I shooed the dog out of the way and sat down and began to watch the football game. And the gals went in, we're talking in the kitchen, the little one's on the floor, and this caller friend of mine are talking back and forth, and all of a sudden I hear this noise, kind of, or something of that nature, and I suddenly realized that this dog is in the restroom or in the bathroom drinking out of the commode. So I thought to myself, this is unbelievable. So I went into the bathroom, and sure enough, this dog is into the bathroom here, and I chased him out the back door and went down and sat down and watched the TV a little bit more and finished up the football game and walked outside. And as I walked outside, here's this dog in the middle of my backyard, and is standing right next to this big hole. This dog dug this big hole in the middle of my backyard, and by this time I'm a little bit irritated. I'm normally a patient person. But I chased the dog away and fired up the barbecue, and I came back with the meat, and I looked at the dog, and I thought about the meat, and I thought, no, he wouldn't do it. So I put the meat in the barbecue, and sure enough, and came back and checked it the first time, and the dog had stayed away, and I scolded him a little bit. And all this time thinking, why did this friend bring his dog? Anyway, before I finished to get the meat off the barbecue, I looked down, and sure enough, there was a piece of chicken missing. And I looked over, and sure enough, there's just this barbecue sauce in this dog's face. And I was just irritated, just to the point I was just about ready to say something. And I came into the back door, put the meat on the table, and sat down, and in comes this old dog and jumps right up on the paws right up on the table sitting here. And by this time, I'd had it, and I normally am fairly patient. And I finally said, Jim, I love when you guys come. I just think it's terrific you guys are over, but next time I'd appreciate it if you'd leave your dog at home. And he said, Mike, I thought this was your dog. So I want you to know that it's important that you communicate. This is a communication effort not only with between people you have over your house, but communication with your dancers. And I think that's the... Anyway, next time somebody brings a dog over, check and make sure it's their dog, all right? Before we go too much further, then, I'd like to talk a little bit. Our session today is a little bit about, once again, formation management. And when we talk about formation management, it's been defined by many writers in our activity over the years, and many of the definitions have been different phrasing of words, but suffice to say that the formation is the basic shape that a square is in at any given time, the basic geometric shape, and it includes the facing direction of the dancers. And I think formation management also includes a very important element that most of you are probably familiar with, FASR, or FASR as it's called, and this is being able to handle the position of all the people in the square, not just two people in the square. So here to talk a little bit more about FASR and the mechanics of choreography as it pertains to that is Norm Wilcox. Norm?
Thank you, Mike. Well, you've covered my first part of my presentation, so that I only have about 5 minutes left. No, what we're going to try and do in this first part is to I had down why we need to concern ourselves with formation management, and Mike has covered part of that for you. We're going to review I call it a phaser. I don't know which is the correct pronunciation. And it's nothing to do with Star Trek. That's a small joke. Usually gets a small laugh. That's small enough. Okay. Don't have time to watch television. That's right. Okay. We're only going to deal with symmetrical choreography. At least I'm only going to deal with symmetrical choreography. Anyone have any problem with that? You know what we're talking about by symmetrical choreography? We're not going to get into any asymmetrical stuff at all. And within each formation, I'm going to show that there are only 6 arrangements of dancers. And we'll give some examples, some familiar formations and maybe a couple of unfamiliar ones. And then how to apply this to your programs, how to use this information. So that's kind of where I'm going to be going. I look at formation management as basically it's a tool. One of the tools we have in our arsenal of tools to call square dances, because calling square dances is you're moving dancers from one given formation and arrangement to some other given formation and arrangement. And whether you do this consciously or not, this is what you're doing. Every time you call a call, you change either the formation or the arrangement. And I feel that if we are more conscious of what we are doing in that relationship, then we'll have better control over the dance. We'll be able to provide more variety in it. We mentioned the phaser, and it, of course, is 4 aspects of any given, and it's hard to find another word to describe. There are 8 dancers out there, and they are in a formation. And within that formation, they are in a given arrangement. And then there is sequence of the dancers and relationship of the boys and the girls. Now, next door, they're going to deal with sequence and relationship because they're talking about sight resolution. Here, we're going to only concern ourselves basically with the formation and the arrangement. We're not really concerned about whether they're partners, corners, opposites, or whatever. Only the relationship between which is going to be the boy and the girl. That's the only thing we really have to be concerned about. When we're calling, we have to know the consequence of every call that we call before we call it. What formation is it going to leave us in after it is finished before they get there? You can't wait till the last minute when they arrive at the formation and say, okay, now I'm going to do something this formation allows me to do. You have to know in advance what the call is going to do for you. You also have to know when they get there what calls are available to you in the formation that they're going to arrive in. So this is the maintaining and management of the formations, knowing in advance what formations you're allowed to use and what you can use out of those formations. And this is true not only for guys who use memorized material or module callers or cue card readers, it's also true for sight callers. There's 2 parts to sight calling. One is the resolution, which, making it oversimplified, is a cookbook recipe. In other words, if you're going to resolve the square, you start from a known point, or you engineer a known point, and then you go from there. You either do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, whether they are formalized in your mind or not. This is really what you're doing. You're going step by step, and you resolve the square, and that's what they're discussing over there. In between that and the heads do something and the resolution is what I call locomotion. And this is where you have to be concerned with the formations and the arrangements of the dancers while you're calling. And you have to be able to do this on the fly, seemingly extemporaneously, being conscious of flow and allowable calls, and also allowing for dancer success. And this cannot be done without some preparation ahead of time. When you're sitting down at your desk, you have time to do all this. Okay, now we're going to be concerned with formation and arrangement. Let's look at what those 2 terms mean. At this point, I'd like to, if we could, get a demo square. 8 people to kind of show what we're talking about. A little bit of show and tell here. Don't be bashful. We're not going to embarrass you.
I don't have a lady.
Well, if you'd like to come up, sir, I have a lady over here to dance with you. It'd be handy if you were in the middle. Can we get enough room here? Either that, we can move a couple of those chairs. One more couple. One more good-looking, sexy young couple. All right, I did it. There we go. You win. You're number one couple. Number one. Okay. Let's see. Pretty easy way to do this. Let's have the sides shuffle out to the right, make lines with the heads. Just slide over to the right, make lines. I'm trying to decide which would be the easiest way for you people sitting down to see what I'm going to do. Now, again, we're not going to be concerned with partners, corners, or opposites, but just to kind of tie that in a bit, and with some of the terminology that has been developed, this is a facing line, and we're going to get into the 6 possible arrangements in a facing line. And the first arrangement is called a zero arrangement because it has a boy and a girl and a boy and a girl, and they're what we euphemistically call normal arrangement. That is, the girls on the right, boys on the left. So we might call this a zero line. However, over the years, there has been a nickname applied, we use a lot, called zero line. And we imply in the zero line, the nickname, that it is partner with partners associated and the square is in sequence. For the basis of our arrangement discussion, if I use the term zero line, I'm going to try and say small z, that's Canadian, small z for you guys here in the States, small z, zero line, which will indicate the only concern with boy, girl, regardless of who the lady is in relation to the boys. Okay? So we got lines facing in. Now, Mike mentioned that formation does not only mean the geographic location of every dancer in the square, also implies the facing direction. Produce, everybody face your partner. Without moving their feet, we've now changed the formation from a lines to an 8-chain through. Centers only do a U-turn back. We've changed it from an 8-chain through to double pass through. All turn back. We now have a completed double pass through. Once again, the centers only turn back. We have a trade by. All face in. Girls do a turn back. We have a right hand ocean wave. Everybody turn back. We have a left hand ocean wave. So you see that by without moving their feet, we've rotated them. We have 6 or 7 different formations. So the formation must include the facing direction of the dancers. Okay, make your lines again. I'm going to have you stamp a bit. I don't want to get you up and down, so if you wouldn't mind. In CALLERLAB, they've gone to a great deal of trouble to identify a lot of formation names, and there are charts available, and I'm sure you've all got copies of this, but just to refresh your memory on it, there are 2 charts that I found. One was going for 53 different formations, going from ordinary couple up to a galaxy, and then a second one I found involving the advanced and challenge formations goes up to triple boxes. There are about 75 different formations. The whole point is that you should know the names of formations and what they are, so that when you're talking to callers, you can say the formation a quarter box, or it's a 2-faced line clockwise, or it's a facing line, or it's an hourglass, or it's a galaxy, without saying, well, it's the formation you get when you do this and do this and do this. So communication plays a great part when you're talking to other callers. There are a whole lot of formations that don't have names. For instance, everybody pass the ocean. Okay, boys circulate 1.5, girls cast off 3/4. Okay, now, what's the name of this formation? It doesn't have one as far as I know, but it's a valid formation we got here using mainstream calls. And what we're going to do with it now we've got here? Well, a lot depends on how you look at it as to what you have. You could have a 6-hand wave with 2 lonesome dancers. Or if you're dancing plus, you could think there's a diamond in the center and 2 mini waves. A lot depends on how you view these things as to what you're going to do with the call. Once you've got here, how are you going to get out of it? How are you going to normalize? And the term normalize for this session will be normalizing back to boy and girl as a couple, a normal couple, regardless of their relationship and regardless of sequence, only getting them back to normal couples. So how would you normalize this? Well, if you were dancing plus, one of the quickest ways I can think of doing it is this. The wave of 6 do a grand swing through. The 4 boys have a diamond. Boys do a diamond circulate. Girls do a single hinge. Boys flip your diamond. The girl facing out run right. The boys extend, and the boys run around the girls. And we've normalized the formation. By normalizing again, we've got back to a normal situation with the boy on the left, girl on the right. However, we got there using mainstream. So without using the reference to diamond, how will we get out of this? Let's do this again. Everybody pass the ocean. Okay, let's do this. Swing through. Just a bit different. Girls circulate 1 1/2. Boys cast off 3/4. Here's the same formation viewed from a different angle. Again, we've got different components. Okay. 6 in the wave, swing through. Now, in the mainstream definitions, we don't have grand swing through, but if you look at the swing through definition, you'll find that any number of people in the wave can swing through. We had 6. So we don't need to say grand swing through. We have to say in your wave of 6, swing through. Okay. Those 6 in the wave do a single hinge. Now we've got a two-faced line across the middle with the girls in it and the boys in mini waves. Girls do a wheel and deal. The boy facing out run right. Girls pass through. Everybody star through. Boys facing out California twirl, which is maybe not the way I would call it at a flowing dance, but we have normalized it using only mainstream calls. Got from a kind of an oddball situation back to a normal situation using only mainstream calls. And this can be done at your dances. However, if you attempt to do this type of choreography, get out of an abnormal situation quickly. Don't leave them hanging in midair for very long because they get very nervous. One of the formations that is in the list is the tidal line. And a tidal line is an enormous two-faced line with 4 dancers facing one way, 4 facing the other. And let's see if we can step one of these up. Can we have the square you step, please? Just get back to where you start from. Okay. Head couples do a half sachet. Just the heads. Heads square through 4. Okay. Step to a wave. I'll spin the top. Grand swing through. All the boys run to the right. And here we have a tidal line. And we got here, again, using mainstream calls. And this, if mainstream dancers get into this formation, it would kind of leave them hanging a bit, nervous because this is an abnormal formation for mainstream dancers. How are we going to get out of this? Well, one thing we could do is 4x4 wheel and deal, which uses up an awful lot of dance floor, which may or may not be available to you. Let's have the very center girls trade. Pick up a boy, and you 4 do a wheel and deal, and sweep a quarter. The others bend in. And we have normalized with boy on the left, girl on the right, and we're in an ordinary double pass-through formation. We got in, and we got out quickly. Okay, let's square a set again, please. Let's look at some arrangements. Okay, could we again have the sides slide out to the right and make lines again? Okay, there are only 6 possible arrangements in any given formation. Only 6. This one is coded 0. Now, Bill Davis's committee has gone to a great deal of trouble to code all the various arrangements within the formations, and also to code in the formation along with sequence and relationship. And I refer you to the material that his committee has put out if you want to get into this further. Most of us, in talking day to day, don't get that far into it that deeply. Choreographers do if they're talking to each other on a one-to-one, and sometimes note services will get into this, and it's well to know that it is existing. But for today's discussion, we're not going to get too deeply into the coding of it, just to say that it is there, and we'll show you what the codes are for this formation only. This is the 0 arrangement, okay, and it's a small Z. Okay, everybody half sachet. You have the girl on the left and the boy on the right. This is called the half arrangement. Fairly obvious. Everybody pass through. Do a wheel and deal, and spread. And we have the boys on the right, girls on the left. This is the 1 formation. Bend the line. Now we've changed the arrangement. We've changed the arrangement. Now have the boys on the left, girls on the right, and this is the 2. Okay, pass through once again, please. Wheel and deal, and spread. This is number 3, and we have the girls on the end, boys in the center. Bend the line. We've changed the arrangement. This is the last one. This is the four, what's called four, and this is the boys on the end, girls in the center. Now, those are the only 6 you can have. There are no others if you're dealing with symmetrical choreography. Anybody have any doubts about that? Any questions on it? There are only 6. You accept that. That's good. Okay. Yeah, let's do this. How will we resolve this? Okay, let's do this. Touch a quarter. All trade, and the boys roll. I didn't mean that. Unroll, guys. Girls roll. We have a sex workshop following this presentation. Okay, girls square through 4. Those that can do a do-sa-do. And those that did, star through. Those that did not, turn a quarter to face in. And we've normalized it back to regular lines of 4, with the girl on the right, boy on the left. Let's look at one other, just for the sake of looking at other formations with these 6 arrangements. 2 a touch, 1 quarter. Here's an ordinary column. We've all danced with this many, many times. All 8 circulate. This is a different arrangement within the column. This is the half arrangement. Ends trade. Now we have the boys in tandem, one behind the other, girls in tandem, one behind the other, and this is the number 1. All trade. We change the arrangement to number 2. All 8 circulate. We now have the boys on the end, girls in the center. This is 3. All 8 circulate double. 1 and 2. A little more. And we have the girls on the outside, boys in the center. And that's the only 6 that there are in the column. Okay. Square, you want to take a couple of minutes to sit down and rest your feet? We'll get you back up again in a minute if you wouldn't mind. You're going too far. Have a big hand for that square. Super job. Okay. I'm going to endeavor not to embarrass the square when we're getting into stuff a little further on. So this is all great, and this is marvelous, and isn't this wonderful? But how do we use this in our programs? Well, one of the things I think is happening, I know it's happening in our area, is the dancers learn mainstream, and they learn plus, and they rush on. They want to get out of mainstream, get into plus, and they want to get out of plus into advanced. And there are a lot of reasons why they're doing this, why they're rushing on through, and a lot of them don't apply to our discussion today. But one of the things I think is causing this may be boredom. If callers only call things one way, dancers learn the standard definitions, they learn to dance it one way, and that's all they ever see. After you've learned the basics, what else is there? Well, we learned all that, let's go learn something else. I feel that if we take the concept of using different formations and different arrangements within formations, we can keep dancers from rushing on because we're keeping them interested, keeping them dancing, keeping them, they're alive, keeping them learning something, but not learning another level of dancing before they have really covered the one they're already in. Then, having made that decision, how do you implement this? Well, there is 2 or 3 things I can suggest to you. You can take a simple call, such as Ferris wheel. We all do Ferris wheel, swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel in the center is passed through, element left. We all done this 1,000 times, and it flows very nicely. Dancers like it. But after you've done about 50 of them, doesn't that get a little bit boring? I mean, here comes Ferris wheel again. And to tell you the truth, when I call swing through, boys run, wheel on deal at a mainstream dance, I have half the floor do a Ferris wheel. I'm still doing wheel on deal. Have you seen that? We've used so much Ferris wheel. But it's a good call. They can be done from 2 basic formations. One is a clockwise 2-face line. The other is a counterclockwise 2-face line. And within each of those formations, there are 6 arrangements. How about exploring some of the other arrangements within those 2 formations to present your dancers, to give them some variety in that one call only, and take this concept and apply it to all the other calls in your program. Now, this is going to take a lot of work because what's going to happen is 2 things. One, you're going to have to learn how to set these up. And 2, you're going to have to learn how to normalize the square after you've done the Ferris wheel. So it takes a bit of work sitting at home with checkers, pushing them around. But I think it's going to pay off in the long run. I think the dancers will become more interested, and they will stick around a little longer. And also, when they do move on to the next program, they're better equipped to handle the basics in that program. Okay. Can we get our square back up again, please? We talked about having to set these formations up. Let's see how we would set up a clockwise right-face 2-face line. what did I say? Clockwise right face. That means then, isn't it? Yeah. Clockwise two-face line with the boys facing in and the girls facing out. There's many ways of doing this, but one occurs to me is this. Everybody ahead, star through. Everybody double pass through. Centers in. Cast off three-quarters. Pass through. Tag the line right. As I explained to my dancers one night, that doesn't mean tag it properly. It means tag it, then turn right. So we got the girls facing out and the boys facing in most places. Okay, super. There's our two-face line. We've got the boys facing in, girls facing out. Now, if you wanted to create the other arrangement where we have the girls facing in, boys facing out, all we have to do is circulate. Okay, don't do that. Okay. All right, do a Ferris wheel. So that puts the boys in the center, girls on the outside. Okay, now we've done this. Now we should normalize it, because if this is one of the first times you've done this, you're going to have the dancers kind of on edge now, because this is unfamiliar territory. So let's have the boys pass through. Everybody touch a quarter, and the boys run right. Couples circulate and bend the line. And we normalize it back to facing lines. Okay, so let's look at the counterclockwise setup. Now, counterclockwise two-face lines come out of left-hand formations most easily. There are other ways of doing it, but left-handed formations are the ones that lead you into it easier. Let's have everybody star through. Okay, so let's assume that we've started out by having the head square through, and this is how we arrived at our 8-chain through formation. Everybody star through. Do a right and left through. Ladies lead, do a Dixie style to an ocean wave. Using your left hand, do a single hinge. Make new waves in the centers trade. Same centers run left. Now that in itself is going to have your dancers, if you haven't seen this formation before, this type of material before, is going to have them kind of on edge already. So if you sense this is happening, then get out of this quickly and go back to normal and then start over again. But having got to the point where they're doing this fairly easily, now we can do a Ferris wheel. We got the girls facing in, boys facing out, but it's from the other side, so this is going to feel different. Let's try it. Do a Ferris wheel. That puts the girls in, the boys on the outside. And once you've got them here, of course, now you have to resolve it, or not resolve it, but normalize it. So let's have the girls pass through. Again, do a touch 1/4. And all the boys run right. Girls trade in the middle as couples circulate. I decided to insert the girls trade there for better flow. Okay, bend the line, and we've resolved it, normalized it back to facing lines. Another way of using this idea is to take a multiple formation call. That is a call that can be done for more than one formation, and doing it from a variety of formations. And the one that I thought of was spin the top, which is a call which we all use. We all do. Let's do this. Everybody pass the ocean, please. We all do this 1,000 times. Swing through, spin the top, and a right or left through. How many times have you called that in the last year? Right? And there's nothing wrong with it. It flows beautifully. That's why we used it. And it's a nice equivalent to star through, isn't it? But after a 50 or 100 of them, it does get a touch boring. So let's look at other formations we can use. And we can do a spin the top from a variety of formations. Parallel right-hand waves, left-hand waves, quarter tags. Let's do this. Everybody star through. Centers California twirl. Step to an ocean wave. This is a quarter tag formation. We can do the center, spin the top. Don't do it. Okay, thank you. Okay, do this for me. Fan the top. Girl 3/4, boy move up. This also is a place you can do a spin the top or a fan the top. And I don't know what this formation is called. I refer to it as an H. It becomes an H of a call, but there you go. Let's do this. In the wave, spin the top for me, please. Good up, girls. Those boys run. Wheel and deal. Pass through. Everybody star through. Step to a tidal wave. Here's another formation you use spin the top from. You can have each wave do a spin the top, or identify the fact that there is a wave in the center. That can also spin the top. And if everybody do a U-turn back, please, right on the spot, just turn around. We have a left-hand tidal wave. Again, we can spin the top on both ends or the centers. Okay. Yes, spin the top is a call which does not require right hand to start. It's ends and the centers swing. Okay, can you set the square down, please? I think we've just about gone through all I need to do for them. Thank you very much. How about a hand for the square? Okay, so take a simple call and use it from a single formation with all 6 arrangements. Take a call which can be done from multiple formations and do it from those multiple formations. Another way of doing it is to combine those 2 ideas. Take a multiple formation call and use it in all the formations you can think of and all the arrangements you can think of to add the variety. And you're looking at a lot of material, and you haven't left the list that you're working with. Also, you can look at other formations, and I think Ed's going to get into this in his discussion, using other formations other than the ones we normally are accustomed to using. Things like inverted lines, 3-in-1 lines, facing diamonds, point-to-point diamonds. Formations that are a little bit different, but can be managed. And also add a degree of variety to your program. Another question you should ask yourself is, what am I doing now? And what can I do to be different? And we apply that to things you're doing today, such as swing through the boys run. That little combination we use 1,000 times. That's what I'm doing now. What else can I do? What else is there to do to make it a little different? Dozens of things. Here's 1 or 2. Swing through boys trade. Girls fold. Peel off. Or if you're dancing plus, peel the top. Swing through, single hinge. Or swing through again, and the girls run. Or swing through, boys trade, swing through, and the boys fold and peel off. There's so many things we can do if we sit down and ask that question about, what am I doing now? What can I do that's different? And again, we are, I think, extending the life of our dancers within the programs, providing variety without teaching them any new calls from the next list. We're working within our programs and providing the variety. I think we need to do that. Just one last little thing I'd like to leave you with, and that I worked out a little sequence of introducing some of these ideas, and I asked the square to sit down. I should have left them up here. Could I have them back up one more time, please? Okay. And this came upon me the other night. I was working with a plus club, and I dug out a little figure that I had written for a mainstream, a very difficult sequence, and I called it to them. And they had an awful bit of trouble with this figure. So I decided this might be a good one to show how I would sort of introduce some of these ideas. Let's have the head step forward and face your corner. And once again, we showed swing through and the spin the top and right on left through. That's our basis, what I do now. Now, what can I do that's different? Well, let's add some circulates and maybe add a fan the top into that sequence and see what happens to us. Let's all swing through. All 8 circulate. Fan the top. Each wave, spin the top. And by adding the circulate and the fan the top into that sequence, it's become a totally different sequence, but without changing the basic arrangement the dancers are used to. We've done the spin the top from the boys in the center, which they can all do quite easily. So we've added 1 degree of difficulty and 1 bit of variety without doing a heck of a lot of stuff. But now let's add an arrangement changer in that sequence. Okay, so we're starting from right-hand parallel ocean waves. All swing through. All 8 circulate. Split circulate. And this changes our arrangement now. 2 boys together, 2 girls together. Fan the top. Already, we have a tremendous square of dancers who are starting to experience the degree of difficulty we're adding to this. Each wave, spin the top. Turn right, stand 3/4, hands move up. Okay, now that has added quite a degree of difficulty to the sequence, but it's added variety, and it can be done if you do it in small chunks. You're going to have to do some homework on some of this, introduce bits and pieces of that, having realized what it's going to do to you, add bits and pieces one at a time, and then put it all together. Now, we can add 1 more degree of difficulty by doing this whole sequence twice. Let's do it. Swing through. All 8 circulate. Split circulate. Fan the top. Each wave, spin the top. And by not changing the sequence, but by doing it twice, it made it feel totally different. And again, add a degree of difficulty and a degree of variety. It's easy to normalize from here, which if the boys run, we have facing lines of 4. Do that for me, please. Boys run. And we've got facing lines of 4. Everybody's relaxing. Okay. Now, if we add one more step, it turns out that we do that 3 times, and it comes out to a 0. So if you have dancers that can really handle this, and you want some excitement, you do it 3 times, and you come out to a complete 0. Okay, let's have one more big hand for the square. Ed will probably have them up again, but they've done a super job. Okay, that wraps up my portion of the program, and thank you for attending, and here's Mike.
All right, Norm. You know, I appreciate the square coming up back and forth. This is not easy standing in one spot. This would be much easier if we had music and we were moving constantly, so we appreciate the fact that you come on up and give us a hand with this. I think it's interesting that you can take a formation that you use all the time, and with a certain number of calls, you can change the arrangements of that formation to provide a tremendous amount of variety to your program. So if you're using, I would strongly advise, if you don't already do so, that you tape yourself and tape a dance and listen to your pattern and find the combinations of calls that you use that you find repeat themselves to swing through the boys' runs, as Norm was saying, and break those combinations down to what else can I do from in this particular sequence? How can I do that to provide more variety in my program? Become aware of that, because your dancers, you will find after a while, are just moving around and they're anticipating your movements, and you'll find a greater degree of variety in your programs if you can avoid that repetition and take the simple common formations that you use all the time and change the arrangements to provide variety in your programs. Anybody have any questions thus far? Anybody have any particular questions or comments? It was interesting, Norm, that formation that you had there, the wave of 6 and the 2 lonesome dancers, I have heard referred to before as a Tivot formation. What's that? Tivate? Is that how it's pronounced? Tivate? Excuse me, Tivot? Oh, okay, very good. It's interesting. Who knows? We may have names for these formations down the line. So is that like ice cream? Basically, interesting enough, we have this symbol system that we were talking about. It can be a complex system as far as numbering and lettering our various formations and to include the arrangements and the sequence and the relationship. Just recently in guidelines, we received a technical note, a little technical note, a couple pages here that was called Extending the CALLERLAB Symbol System by Bill Davis. It was in the January 1990 issue of Guidelines, but it discussed basically the formation abbreviation symbols for our various formations. It also discussed arrangements, number systems, and sequence state numbers and relationship letters. We have not entirely recognized this as a viable system, and we may never do that, but I think we will probably reach some kind of compromise to where when callers communicate more between themselves, that we'll have an abbreviation system so that it's a little bit more updated to today's choreography. I don't know, there's probably some disagreement, and Ed probably has some different feelings on this too that I think he might want to share. But if you have not read that article, it's very simple, it's very quick reading, and it gives you a real fast way of looking at FASR and breaking it down and being able to combine that. And on the back page of there, it has symbols for common setups. It's kind of interesting to review that. It doesn't take a lot of time, so you might look back in your notes, Guidelines, January 1990. Before we go any further, Ed, you're not going to need that square right away. Okay, let's just bring on with a nice hand Mr. Ed Foote. Ed?
Thank you. I was going to sit here and probably the easiest. My big thing on formation and choreography is to keep it simple. I want it the simplest possible way possible. That's what I'm always looking for, whether it's written or called or whatever. In looking at what I'm going to want to talk about here, in formation management, we really have two things. We have existing formations that we all know and use, and what different things can we do from them. And then second, we have unusual formations that we don't really use all the time, but can be used occasionally. So I want to show some examples of each. But along with the formation management and using choreography from these different formations, a very key thing is presentation technique. You can have the greatest choreography in the world. You can have the greatest idea for some way out formation and to call. But if your presentation of that is not good, it won't fly. It'll die. Presentation is 50% of all choreography. So if you have great choreography and the presentation isn't there, that's only a 50% grade, and we know in school 50% is failure. To use, I'm constantly going to be referring to the presentation techniques, the specific words that I will say that will make this fly, that will make it go at a dance. And another caller, in the past, some callers that came up to me and said, well, that thing you had in your note service, I tried to dance and it didn't work. The dancers just can't do it. Well, I know it works, or I wouldn't have had it in the note service. And right away it tells me the presentation technique wasn't there. So I'm going to be giving the presentation techniques right along with this. Norm mentioned that it might take a lot of work to go home and work with checkers and all. It takes a lot of work to do all this, these unusual formations and different things. While I encourage you to work at home with checkers, I want to kind of dispel the idea that this is work, and this takes a lot of homework by the caller. If we think very simple, extremely simple in our choreography and in our calls, anyone that can sight call can immediately incorporate a lot, if not most of this material, into their dance the next night. When I talk simple, I mean using basics 1 to 49. 1 to 49 to get in, 1 to 49 to get out. Okay. Oh, and one other thing I should mention, we're showing these different formations and different and some unusual things. Recognize that this is not the main body of the dance. 80% of the dance should be straight vanilla. And this type of thing is the frosting on the cake. Now, unfortunately, some callers decide that the frosting on the cake is the cake. And that's putting the cart before the horse, and then it's constant pressure, one figure after another, and not too many people come back to the dance. So recognize that while everything I show here is going to be one figure after another of kind of involved material, recognize that at any given dance you would just sprinkle this in, and 15 minutes worth of what I show here might take you 6 months to really use in reality in a realistic way at a dance. Okay, if we can get the square up. And if those people are tired because they were up before, if we can get some other people. Okay, we need somebody else there. We're really short of girls, aren't we, there? Are there any other? It's probably easier to see if we did have girls, but we'll, as long as we have one boy girl, that's okay. We'll know you're the girl. Okay. Okay. First, I just wanted to the figure that Norm used is one I like to use, and I just wanted to show you one other thing that I like to use with it. All the heads star through, pass through. Make an ocean wave, and all 8 circulate. The boys go a half more, girls cast off 3/4. And that sets up our 6-hand wave down the middle with our diamond in the center. Another get out from here that I like to use is I say center, let's do the wave of 6 swing through. Wave of 6 swing through. I got to remember that guy is a girl. Okay. The center girl run right around the end girl. Simon says the center girl. Okay. Now, the line of 6, do a grand half tag the big line. See your 2-face line in the middle. That phrase, see your 2-face line in the middle, is the key to make it fly, because that locks them onto that line. Otherwise, they'll tend to be floating around there. We have our 2-face line in the middle. Now we're ready to get out real easy. Center 4 wheel and deal, outside boy run. and we're back to a normal type of situation. This leads us to a presentation technique, a basic rule of thumb. When you get the dancers in an unusual situation, don't leave them there very long. They get hyper. And once they get hyper, they'll break down if you tell them to breathe. So you get them in, you let them experience, gee, this is unusual, then you get them back out so they can rest and relax. Centers pass through, star through. Everybody pass through and wheel and deal. Centers square through 3/4, outside boy run to the right. Put centers in between. Now right there's a presentation technique. I said centers in between. If I just said centers in, sure, centers in, that's the correct name, but the two people that were facing, the girls were facing, invariably some people on the floor would do a centers out. It just happens. The phrase centers in between, those are the words that guarantee that no one will break down on the call centers in. And everybody cast off 3/4. Now we have a 3-in-1 line. At Mainstream and Plus, there's not a whole lot we can do with this. The dancers realize they have the 3-in-1 line. So in terms of letting them experience something unusual, they've experienced it. So we can get out right now, and we look simple. What simple things can we do? The centers, notice, are normal boy-girl facing couple. So let's have the centers pass the ocean, and that gives us diamonds, and then we can just work from our diamond. Do a diamond, circulate, and flip the diamond. Scoot back. One thing I like to do when we have mixed-sex waves like this, we have a mixed-sex wave, boys looking in, girls looking out, instead of saying boys run and California twirl or girls run and to give us lines facing in, and there's no problem with that, except the whole world does that all the time. Instead, from here, it provides a little variety if we say girls trade. Go, girls trade. Now, there's nothing earth-shattering about that, but it's just a little bit of variety. Another presentation technique in getting the dancers to actually do what we want them to do, because the dancers may not have been in this situation before. Maybe some of the girls never did that before when they were facing out, and I said girls trade. Did you notice a couple of them hesitated? Anytime I'm calling something unusual, after I give the name, I will always use the word go. The word go seems to be a propelling action that will propel the people into action and lets them know I really mean what I said. Because a lot of times people stand there and say, nobody ever said that to me before, so he doesn't mean it, so I won't do nothing. So you got to propel them into action. Okay, everybody do a right and left through. Pass through, wheel and deal. From a starting double pass through position, centers slide through, and the centers touch a 1/4. So now we have a 1/4 box formation. Box of 4 in the middle, outside's normal couple. From here, this is unusual right here. Just having this, the dancers say, this is kind of an unusual situation. The girls are now facing each other. I can tell the girls to pass through. Girls pass through. Go. You're going to use the word go to get them there. Now everybody knows this is really unusual. Centers are normal, but the outsides are in a column, and most people never experience this. They've been unusual for a while. By the way, my formula for leaving them unusual is no longer than 20 seconds, preferably less, but no longer than 20 seconds. So I want to get them out now. Centers do a right and left through. The outside girl turn back, and now we're back to a normal, recognizable thing they can breathe. All the centers do another right and left through centers. Centers roll a half sachet. All the centers pass through. We have a same-sex 8-chain through, an 8-chain through with boys looking directly at boys, girls looking directly at girls. I can pick one of the sexes and tell them to pass through. That's no big deal, but how many people ever do that? Probably most people don't do it because they're afraid of how to get out. It's simple get-ins, simple get-outs. Very simple to say, pick a sex and pass through. I'm going to pick the boys to pass through, just to pick. Okay, go boys, pass through. Okay, now we have a right-hand box in the middle. Outsides have left hands. They're unusual. Let's have the center 4 circulate once. The outside boy run around a girl. Center 4 walk and dodge. everybody star through, California twirl, and they're back normal. So again, it took them to an unusual situation, didn't leave them there long enough to let them get hyper before I brought them right back. Everybody slide through and pass the ocean. Now, we all know the call grand swing through. A nice variation of that is the call grand spin the top. Grand spin the top will leave us in a very weird position, but it's no problem as long as we are very clear in the words that we give to the dancers the first time we call it. This is the type of thing I might use as a workshop tip at a dance and then use it the rest of the night. For a grand spin the top, swing half by the right. All those that have left hand, squeeze your left hand. That's important because it lets everybody know who has the left hand. Those who have the left hand, cast 3/4 and freeze. Okay? Now that word freeze is vital because if I didn't say freeze, those center two girls guaranteed are going to start to float around the square. Just take my word for it, it happens. The word freeze is vital because, see, they're getting hyper already. There's nobody else with them. They're just in there by themselves. And the outside, it's a girl, yeah. Outside girl, move up and grab a hold of the boy. That's our ending position for grand spin the top. We have 2 offset waves of 3 with 2 girls in the middle. This is about as way out as you can get. So most callers then say, well, I'm never going to call grand spin the top because there's no way you can get out of this. Very important to remember, we said think simple. Whenever you go to get out, there is never one big magic call that takes you out of an unusual situation. It's always very little things. Somebody run, somebody else turn around, somebody else wave at somebody else. Very simple things. We set up this formation. Let's do something with it. Notice that we have 2 columns of 3 down the center that are left-handed. Those columns of 3 circulate once. Okay. Notice also we have 2 waves of 3. And we know that the call swing through starts with the right hand. So I would say the waves of 3, I wouldn't just say swing through, because guaranteed somebody's going to say, the only way I can start is with my left hand, so he really means for me to start with the left hand. I would say wave of 3, starting with a right hand. That's my insurance that they're really going to do it. Swing through. Go. Swing through. Half right. Those that can, half left. Okay. New columns of 3 down the center. Circulate once. Okay. The lone girl looking in, move up, make a wave with the girls in the middle. The girls in the middle swing through. And the same people recycle. The other boy looking out, run around the boy that's looking in. That's a dumb way to say that. Okay. And we're back to a normal situation. Girls pass through, star through, boys trade in the middle, and everybody bend the line, and you're back home. So again, we think very simple on the things we're going to do. Let's do that again because it's kind of interesting. Everybody pass through and bend the line, and step up, make your tidal wave right there. And from right here, grand spin the top, swing half, 6 who can with the left hand, 3/4 and freeze, and the other one move up. Now, of course, in our wave on the outside, we can also have them do a left swing through, correct? To say the waves on the outside, starting with the left hand, left swing through, go. Okay. We can say we have the center 6 in the column. We did the column circulate the last time. This time, why don't I say the center 6 do an all 8 walk and dodge. 4 will walk and 2 will dodge. And that's just a directional call. We'll pick right up. Okay. The 2 boys looking in, move in, make a wave in the middle. Boys recycle. The girls do a partner trade. And the boys pass through, star through, and California twirl, and all promenade back home. Or heads wheel around because we're not going to be in sequence there. Okay. Okay. Any questions on that? That thing of grand spin the top really illustrates the whole idea of different material on unusual formations, but it wasn't difficult. If I just called it cold, grand spin the top, without any directions, yeah, everybody would break down. But the presentation technique of the step-by-step through it, that's what gets everybody through the call. Let's have the heads lead right, veer left. Bend the line, do a right and a left through, roll away with a half sachet. pass through. From lines facing out, or from any situation, normally we'll say ends run, centers run, boys run, or girls run. Something to set up a different formation would be pick only 2 people and have them run. The center boy, run right, go. Okay, now we have a 3-in-1 line. The dancers know they have that. They know it's a little unusual, but it's no problem because look at what we have in the center. We're thinking simple. Where is anybody simple? The center 4 is simple. The center 4 are set up for a normal follow your neighbor and spread, right? Same-sex boys working together. Okay, center 4, follow your neighbor and spread. Go. The others walk forward, move along, and star through in California twirl on the outside. You'll have to inhale because of the podium here, but you'll make that. Center 4, recycle and sweep a quarter. Now notice the presentation technique for the 2 ends looking out. I just didn't say the other people move along and touch a quarter. They might have floated out of the square. I said the people looking out walk forward. That will tend to get them moving in the direction I want. Walk forward, move along, and touch a quarter with the next person. It's what I tend to call off-the-street words. Words that I could take anybody in off the street that had never square danced, put them in that position, tell them to do what I want, and they're going to do it. That's what I'm always looking for if possible. Off-the-street words, so somebody that's never square danced will still do what I want them to do. All the centers pass through. Another interesting formation that isn't used very often, yet there's no reason why it couldn't be, is from right here, 8-chain through, we call centers in. Go centers in between the outsides. And I usually always follow that with cast off 3/4, go. Because otherwise it tends to be kind of jerky choreography there. Center 4 normal, right? Center 4, do a right and left through. The others move along and slide through on the outside. Centers pass through, we're back normal. Star through. Pass through, wheel and deal. Centers pass through. Put centers in between. See how that one boy was leaning over there? If I hadn't said between, they might have taken right hands. Cast off 3/4. Center 4, pass the ocean. The other girl, turn around. And that gives us a diamond. And I tell them what they have. I don't just say, other girl, turn around, everybody diamond circulate. That's a big gamble. They may start floating around. I identify the formation they have. That locks it on. That's my insurance policy for success. Do a diamond circulate. Flip the diamond. Centers trade. Girls trade. And the girls are looking out, so they have to trade down the line. Okay. Star through. Put centers in between. Okay. See why that word between is vital? See that? Boy, they did that on purpose. See, they intentionally quivered like that. Cast off 3/4. Centers pass through and all cast off 3/4. And the centers have the forward momentum. It swings them right around. So there are 3 examples where we can let the dancers experience inverted lines, and yet it's not difficult. We get them in there, 1, 2 calls, we're right back out. We'll let you square back up. Just square back up there for a second. One thing that Norm mentioned that there are other formations. There are like 2 sets of formations, the mainstream and plus formations, the advance and challenge formations. There are a lot of excellent formations at advance and challenge that can be used directionally at mainstream and plus with no problem whatsoever. But the natural reaction of everyone is, oh, challenge. We cannot even consider using that at mainstream. Well, gee, the mainstream quarterly selection committee has just approved a C1 call as its next quarterly selection for mainstream. They changed the name. It's going to be Ferris Recycle, but it's the Stretch Recycle. It's been on C1 for 10 years. There's a lot of good stuff at challenge that, if presented correctly, can enliven a mainstream dance and very successful. Everybody gets through it. There are challenge formations that can be used. In fact, we just used one right here. Head star through, pass through, make an ocean wave. All 8 circulate. Boys go a half more. This is a challenge formation. It's called a galaxy, but we don't have to ever tell the dancers that's the name of the formation. The 4 girls in the center circulate with yourselves. What was the key word there? With yourselves. Because if I hadn't said with yourselves, some of them would want to go out and start playing with the guys, right? So the key was to freeze the girls with the 4 in the center. Yeah, not him, right? Okay. So we have a galaxy. This is a challenge formation, but there's no... They must not like the galaxy formation. They are throwing glasses there. Okay, so the center 4 now, girls with the left hand cast off 3/4, and this sets up that 6-hand wave thing that we had before. So before, we actually had a challenge formation, but we never use it, and we can actually use it and never call it by its name. Center diamond, flip the diamond. Okay. And same people recycle, the others hinge, and the girl on the outside turn around. Hope we can do a half sashade recycle in the middle there. All the boys in the middle have a girl on their left ear. Okay. Center's box and that. Do a right and left through. One other thing, I kind of got off of this before. I want to come back to it. Centers pass through. Remember, we were picking a sex that was facing, and we said pass through, and that gave us an unusual situation. Here we have same-sex facing. They're just facing on a diagonal. So I can pick a sex and tell them on a diagonal, pass through. Anybody off the street would do that, right? Girls, with yourselves on a diagonal, pass through. That gives you a right-hand column. That's no big deal at all, right? Center 4, circulate. Center boy, run around the girl. The other girl, turn around. Everybody pass to the center. And the centers swing through. Okay. What we can do now, we set the dancers up for success on these pass-throughs by doing the girls pass through and the boys pass through. We now come up to the coup de grace right here. This is the ultimate. From our quarter tag position, who is facing? All same sexes are facing. Boys straight ahead, girls on a diagonal, pass through, go. And they'll do it. And you should have a left-hand wave, right? Left-hand wave in the center and outside's looking out. They'll do it because I set them up step by step for success. If I just started out at the very beginning and called that, they'd all melt in a little puddle on the floor there. The wave in the middle, trade the wave. The others do a U-turn back. Extend. And we're back to a normal setup. Okay. I have a bunch more things, but I don't want to overgo my time. Do we want to run around again? Run. Okay. Okay. Swing through. Boys run around a girl. Girls do 1/2 of an all-8 circulate. So 2 girls have right hands in the middle. Now we recognize this at advance as an hourglass, but we don't have to ever use the word hourglass to be able to make use of this formation. 4 girls in your diamond. See it? And I will say that phrase, see it, because they may say, well, they may... especially the outside girls, she may think, well, there's my diamond, it's with the boy over there. Well, it isn't. It's the 4 girls in your diamond, see it. That's the words that I would use to make sure that they do what I want them to do. Circulate in your diamond. Girls in your diamond, flip the diamond. And now we're back to normal diamonds, okay? Everybody in your diamond, flip the diamond. Okay. And let's see, boys run around a girl. I have to stop looking at him. I never remember what he is. Bend the line. Okay. Another formation that's used, a challenge that people say, oh, this is the worst thing in the world. I would never use it. You can get a lot of fun with a mainstream or plus group out of this. It's the T-bone formation. Oh, everybody just throws up their hands. What's the fun thing you can do with this? Pass through, wheel and deal, and spread. Pass through, wheel and deal, zoom, do a double pass through. Just the boys do a partner trade and roll to face each other. Or if we're calling mainstream, it would be boys partner trade and turn to face each other. So we can use it either place. Girls do a centers in between the stomachs. I call it exactly those words at a dance. Now the girls are in there. They're playing around with the stomachs. You can tell them, don't play with the stomach. We have a T-bone setup here. This is a challenge formation. It's a T-bone setup. But we don't have to worry about that as long as we think simple. Now, the fact that the girls are in between the stomach, they have experienced this unusual situation long enough. Okay, so now I want to get them out. I want to get them out very simple. What I want is the girls to wind up in a line with the boys in the center. And the command for that, and don't do it yet, the command for that is girls run once and a half. But I know the girls don't know what once and a half is. I'm just hoping they'll run. So what I'm going to do is I give the correct name, girls run once and a half, and then immediately I start talking to the girls to tell them where I want them to be. I forget the 1 1/2 as soon as I've legally given the correct name, and I just directionalize the girls there. Girls, run around a boy once and a half. Make lines with the boys. You have lines of 4, and I say it twice. Guaranteed it works every time. Nobody breaks down on that figure. And then, of course, if you want to do the other way and have the girls partner trade and roll and the boys in between the stomachs, you know, that a little more of a gamble there. Pass through, wheel and deal. Centers, let's see. You're the girl. You're girl. You're yeah, centers do a half sachet and outside squeeze in. Nice roll away and make a line there. Everybody pass through, wheel and deal. Double pass through. Girls partner trade and roll to face. Boys do a centers in between the stomachs. Don't play with a stomach. Now, if you want to get into something if you're working with a little group at home, this is an interesting thing to see if they're sharp. Don't use this at a regular dance, at least not until after you've been paid. Boys run. Now, it's not 1 1/2 like before. It's just boys run. So that puts the boy's shoulder to a girl's neck. And that's what I say. Boy's shoulder to a girl's neck. Centers pass through. Centers in. Between the stomachs. Centers run. Centers pass through. And see, now it's the boys. So we got new people are centers all the time. And so it's an interesting thing, but you wouldn't call it normal dance. Girls should now be facing each other on the outside. And to get out of this, I would say all the girls face the nearest boy. Hi, boy. Star through. Girls trade. Simon says girls trade. Bend the line. Okay. Any questions on any of this so far, or the idea of the presentation techniques? You're getting tired. Yeah. Let's let the square take a rest because they're getting tired there. Nice hand for the square. Okay.
Very good, Ed. Norm, you wanted to add just a point to this?
Yeah, I didn't want to leave you with the impression I mentioned about you having to do a bit of work to organize this, and I didn't want to leave with the impression that you got to go home and spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and beat your brains. I actually, from a personal standpoint, I find this fun. There's an idea. Let's go home and push some checkers around and see what I can do with it. What I had in mind was if you aren't using some of this different formation, different arrangements, that in order to get confidence in yourself, push the checkers around at home. It doesn't matter if they make a mistake with your fingers. You can relive that, back it up, and start it over again. That was what I really had in mind. It is going to take a bit of effort, but I find it fun. I've got a new idea. Let's see what I can do with it. That's really what I had in mind when I was saying this. Thank you.
You know, I think Ed put it into a concise form when he said that this particular type of choreography, you really, and to make the analogy, is like the icing on the cake. If you try to make a dance and use this throughout the evening, you're going to get your dancers a little bit tired and a little bit upset that they're standing, that they're maneuvering, that they're checking this and that. But if you sprinkle this with your material, I think you add a terrific amount of variety to your program. The cue words that allow your dancers to succeed in the presentation techniques, as Ed has alluded to, is really the key to any type of choreography. Whenever you're adding variety to your program, I think the way you present it, the cue words that you work with your dancers, I think make an awful lot of difference. They keep your dancers moving, they keep them successful, and it makes an awful lot of enjoyment out of doing something rather quick and simple to your programs. We're going to finish up this session because we're all going to break and go to dinner here for real questions. First of all, is there anybody that wants to add anything to this? Anybody have any comments, questions for any of the panelists? Any ideas? Anything to add? And let me just leave you with one simple thing. There's a very successful man who once summed up the reason for his success in 3 words, and then some. He said the difference between the average people and the people at the top can be explained in those 3 words. The top people did what was expected of them, and then some. They were considerate, tolerant, and kind, and then some. They met their obligations and responsibilities fair and square, and then some. They were good friends to their friends, and then some. And they could be counted on in an emergency, and then some. And I think those things, the little bit extra that we do for our dancers, and the little bit extra that we do in a Callers Association, coming out and participating in CALLERLAB, is the and then some that helps to make your programs and square dancing much more successful. I thank you for coming and hope you enjoy the convention. Wait, before one more thing, Ed would like to just finish up.
Just want to mention over on the side over here, we have a handout. I put 3 of my free handouts over here. One is a handout entitled Bad Choreography. It's 150 things you never want to call. Combinations that just don't dance well, whether it's body flow, same hand, overflow. It's everybody always writes down what you should call. Nobody ever shows what you shouldn't call. So it's a free handout over there, and also my 2 tips articles that are mainly for dancers called Tips for Better Dancing and How to Look Good When You're Dancing. Those are mainly for dancers. They're free for the taking. If you like what's on them, feel free to take them home and make copies and pass out to your dancers there. And one thing I think I should mention, since Mike was talking about the dog before and all, if on any of this material the dancers ever find they're falling behind you in the directions, they're falling behind, all you have to do is tell them to eat ketchup and to eat tomatoes, and then they can catch up.
Let's once again a nice hand for Norm Wilcox, Ed Foote. Once again, those handouts are up in the front. Thank you for coming.